G'day everyone. Round 2 is almost upon us. Can you believe it? 81 days without footy, but thankfully that'll all be over tonight when Richmond takes on Collingwood at the MCG. And of course, that means that KFC SuperCoach is back as well. My name's Tim Michell, joined by our SuperCoach investor, Dan Begala, and our experts, Paton and Paige Cardona, to have a chat about what on earth we're going to do with these 5 trades that have been bestowed upon us for round 2, and hopefully answer a few of your questions as well to help guide your team selections for not just round 2, but the rest of the season as well. So better welcome the crew in. And Dan, firstly, good to have you on again. How are your 5 trades looking, mate? I hear that there might have been a bit of panic in the stock exchange today.
Yeah, there's been a trading halt again. The whole ASX or the SuperCoach stock exchange has been halted because there's a lot of nerves. Tonight I'm expecting some serious changes, almost an avalanche of surprises. We've seen BZT, obviously we'll talk about that shortly, but we've seen BZT. I think that Starcevic, I think that Cumming, I think that a few other boys might find themselves playing scratch matches over the weekend. So I'm a bit nervous about my forecasted trades. And there's still probably a bit of water to go under the bridge tonight, but I am excited for footy. 81 days, as you've said, and what a cracker tonight to kick us off, Richmond Collingwood at the G. Fantastic.
Yeah, it should be a great game. I'm surprised that Al Patton's not in his Richmond colours.
He's in his Collingwood colours.
Yeah, most passionate Richmond supporter. But, Al, I imagine as much as anyone, with your boys back in action tonight, you must be chomping at the bit to get stuck into it. And, hopefully you've got most of those 5 trades sorted as well.
A bit like Dan, I'm excited, but I'm a bit apprehensive as well because I think that hour and 20 minutes or so we've got between when the teams drop and when the ball is bounced at the G, which is the first, obviously, lockout of the round, first lockout we've had in about 2.5 months. It's going to be pretty frantic because, we've had lots of permutations of ideas of, who might come in and out. And I've got lots of screenshots on my phone, as I know, Tim, we've been sharing those as well. And then it's going to be a matter of scrolling back through them to find which one actually matches who's been selected. And, one thing that, we'd like to remind everybody when they have these Thursday night games is that you only need to get tonight's players locked in with the rolling lockout. Everybody else is still available tomorrow, so you can do the rest of your moves. But tonight, I think a lot of people are going to want Jeremy Howe and Darcy Cameron maybe is an option for people. So it is going to affect a lot of whatever other trades are going to be. So, we're going to have to make a lot of calls in some pretty short time.
Yep, so we're going to run through some of the key selection news that's going to impact our teams, but had to get a Collingwood supporter on to balance out the scales here. Although there is two blue baggers at the moment, so that's the important thing that I stacked the scales in Carlton's favour. Paige, how excited are you for tonight? And I know you're a big fan of Tyler Brown, who's thankfully for all those that selected him, he's in the Collingwood team. But Al dropped a few names there, and Darcy Cameron and Jeremy Howe. Are they likely to feature in your 5 trades?
Yeah, definitely. I think Jeremy Howe, certainly for SuperCoaches, has got to be one of your main targets, and that's purely off the back of the role that Jack Madgen's playing for Collingwood. Yep. Madgen coming into the side, now allows Collingwood to structure up nicely down back. Madgen's not going to really touch the footy, but what he is going to do is play a key position role that releases Jeremy Howe, and that is SuperCoach gold. So he's really going to sort of go back to that intercepting rebounder. He'll be that sort of get out player for Collingwood coming out of the back half. And honestly, I think at the moment, what is he? He's about 430, 440k.
431, yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to get him cheaper than that. He's just going to play this high possession rebounding role. And from the scratch matches the Pies have been playing too, we've seen that he's been given a license now to sort of really push up the ground, and he'll have shots on goal the closer he gets up the ground too. So I think, he's a dead moral for me to bring in. The first one who's come into my side this week, that's for sure.
Yeah, seems like a pretty safe bet. So we better get stuck into some of the key news. And the one that people might have missed that's only come out in the last hour or so is the fact that Brandon Zerk-Thatcher, so most of us were sweating on whether the young key back from Essendon was going to be selected for round 2. We can tell you that he's not, because he has been suspended for a week for breaching the current return to play protocols. So just reading from this statement that's been put out by Essendon Footy Club, it says Zerk-Thatcher was in breach of the AFL's living arrangements and came forward to the club to self-report. He underwent 2 separate COVID-19 tests that returned negative results prior to returning to the club. So obviously that's good news, but it means for more than 76,000 coaches that started with Brandon Zerk-Thatcher, unless you can somehow afford to stick him on your bench, which I think would be pretty surprising considering there's, well, apart from Trent Rivers, who we know is going to debut, there's not really a defensive rookie. It looks like there's going to be some trade decisions to be made down here. What are you thinking there with Brandon Zerk-Thatcher for his owners? Are we going up to Jeremy Howe? Are we going sideways to Stephen Hill? Or are we even looking at potentially the Melbourne debutant, Trent Rivers?
Well, he's perfectly priced, firstly, to go to Stephen Hill if he's named tonight. And we know that Stephen will come out and probably shoot a 70, hopefully. But in my opinion, I'll probably short BCT, and I'll shift the young buck from West Coast up to the back line. And that's probably because he's got the dual forward and defence status. And then I'll bring Sam Sturt in. So that's just another way of getting him in. It probably doesn't align with what I'd wanted to do, but it probably will work for now. I'm more conscious that this is just the start of an avalanche or a domino effect of many young players being dropped from their sides, and that includes Cumming, that includes who else have we got down there? We've got Kavara will be dropped, I suspect, for the Bulldogs.
Tom Green, maybe.
Tom Green will definitely potentially lose his spot to Kellen Ward, who's like, it's an amazing response to get him back. And look, Kellen Ward in 2 weeks' time, we haven't spoken about him. He's been the forgotten ACL man, and we know what he's capable of. It'll be 430 odd grand and available next week, probably after a decent score. So for me, BZT probably turns into Sturt. But worst case scenario, he probably looms as a pretty good pillow to get towards a player like Jeremy Howe. And as Paige has said, like, he's got to be your number one target this week. A player that played like that in round one, 25 touches, 12 intercept possessions against a team. Like, the Bulldogs are meant to be a solid side this year, and they got shell-shocked in round one. But as we've seen this year and last year, the Collingwood just know how to really rebound off that back half, and they do it better than any side in the comp. And looked at the team: Roughhead, Moore, Madgen. And then you've got obviously Rioli gets the small defender on him, so he'll get Maynard. So Howe will not be playing on anyone. He'll be playing on his own, intercepting all day. So it's a lay down reserve of mine. I think Paige is exactly on the money on that one.
I think Howe has
his own footy tonight. Sorry, Al.
Yeah, no,
Well,
he has
perfect
scoring history against the Tigers, actually. Like, even though last year he was a bit up and down and ended up only averaging 80, one of his best scores was against Richmond. So for whatever reason, he doesn't mind playing against us. The other Magpie Page that I want your opinion on is Darcy Cameron. So a lot of people started him as an R3, and if you did that, you'd be pretty happy that he's going to get a game and at least maybe make a bit of money. If you didn't start him like me, would you use a trade to get him in? I mean, he scored 120 against Richmond in the preseason, but there was no Brodie Grundy that night. I'm a bit worried about if Mason Cox comes back, does he just go straight back out? What do you think?
Look, you know what, Al? Darcy Cameron's a really interesting type. He's been recruited to play, purely as a forward. Now, a lot of Collingwood supporters have, had a bit of frustration with Mason Cox over the journey, and that is because he is such a hot and cold player. But by the same token, Collingwood have never had a player on their list that can actually put a bit of pressure on Mason Cox week to week. Obviously, Cameron comes in. He's 23 years old. He's going to play his first game this weekend. He showed incredible form in the NEAFL last year. Real contested marking type, and he's a beautiful elite kick. Terry Wallace is really big on him, actually. He said quite a bit this week and about how impressed he has been with him during his time in the NEAFL and what he showed in the pre-season games. But do throw caution to the wind with him. Mason Cox will probably be Collingwood's preferred option, but it doesn't take much, really, as we see how often in across the league these young guys come in, impact, hold their spots, and push out these older types. And Mason Cox is 28. Cameron is a player of the future for Collingwood, so take that into consideration too. But look, I probably wouldn't be jumping on him tonight. I think there are other options. I mean, if you're really desperate, then perhaps, from a structural point of view, go for him. But I'd be probably more keen to give Cameron another week. If, really this was a run against the clock for Mason Cox. He just didn't come up in time with the Thursday night game. If this had been a Saturday night, I probably would have expected him to play. So I would probably throw a bit of caution to the wind with Darcy Cameron tonight. But, in saying that, if he holds his spot for next week, get him when he's on the bubble.
Sorry, Tim, to cut you off, but it's a bit of an odd situation that, we're looking at a rookie crisis a week or so ago, and now we've sort of developed into another, I don't know if it's quite a crisis, but we're going to have a lot of rookies to choose from, and there'll be a lot like Cameron that you say that we can just have a look for a week. We don't have to get them till next week. But the only problem is there's Cameron, Bennell, Rivers. There could be, Duday, there could be
Stephen
4 or 5
Hill.
of them that, we're not going to be able to get them all next week. So we might have to go early on someone if we're really keen. But, it's a worry if you don't want them to just be out of the team next week.
Yeah, no, you make a good point there, Al. So just before we move off the Tigers and Collingwood and plenty of Supercoach relevant players featuring tonight, just wanted to just reiterate what you said about Jeremy Howe and his recent record against the Tigers. So he scored 99 and 100 in 2 games last year. So that would have put him amongst the top couple of Supercoach defenders for the year. And then in round 6, 2018, he scored 149 against Richmond. So he's got a phenomenal record. And he's then got St Kilda and GWS. And just going back through past games against those teams, he's only scored below 90 once in his past 3 against both St Kilda and GWS. So 90, 91, 121 against the Giants, 130, 121, and 68 against St Kilda. So as Dan said, I think he looks like just about one of the best picks going into this round, not just because he's going to make money, but I think majority of people looking at Jack Viney are probably thinking that he might last 2 or 3 weeks and then you'll flip him into a full-on premium. But I can see Jeremy Howe coming in. You only have to use one trade to get him this cheap, and he'll sit at D5 or D6 for the rest of the year. I think he's a pretty comfortable pick, not just based on his next 3 weeks, but I can see him being there for most of the year. Dan, are you in a similar boat?
Yeah, so I've got, obviously my top 3 are going to be Shannon Hearn, Jake Lloyd, Laird, Doherty. That's the top 4, I suspect, and I think they're all high possession winners, whereas he's a very different player. He's an interceptor. He is a very good kick, but my estimations are he falls between 5 and 8 overall, and he's been there in the past. Many years, people have picked him up underpriced when he was averaging 94, 95, and then he had a few games last year. He got injured very early in the sequence, like in the first quarter, and he is a perennial Supercoach scorer. So for me, he's in. It's just how do I make it happen? At the moment, it means I've got to short the Bont or I've got to short Gawn, and they're not very attractive trades to do, but there might be something that I'll have to do. But again, everything comes down to selection tonight. As Al said earlier, and he pointed out, we're actually going to have one eye to round 3 as well. You can't be just fixated on this week. Next week, we're going to have Bennell on the bubble. We're going to have Stephen Hill on the bubble. We might have Duday on the bubble. We might have Rivers on the bubble. You're actually going to have to jump on the one that you think is going to be the greatest level of job security this week and bring them through. And if that's Tom Green getting traded to Harley Bennell, then so be it. But I'll be paying a lot of attention to where these players do get named tonight. If Bennell is named on a wing or Bennell is named on a half-forward flank, I'll probably take the punt on him because I know I went through his numbers and he's only really had one, like when he's played, he's only had one really sort of average season, which was at Freo where he played 2 games, averaged 50. Prior to that, pretty much 4 or 5 seasons back-to-back when available where he averaged 90 plus. So I think you'll get a player, if he can navigate his way through the soft tissue complaints he's had in the past, who will slot straight into your midfield and be a lot more secure than a guy like Tom Green or Matthew Rowell or those types in M7 and M8.
Well, what do we say, mate? Like, we've been talking about the type of player that could potentially dominate this shortened season. And we're talking about burst players. We're talking about impact players. And Melbourne don't have many of those. But Harley Bennell, when he's up and going, is that exact type of player. So if he can have 10 phenomenal minutes, 40 phenomenal minutes over a whole game, that might be enough for him to score 70, 80, 90 points and gain a bit of cash from 123,000. As I said in the pod this week, it's unprecedented to get a player who's averaged 100 before in Supercoach for 123,000. It just doesn't happen. So, I'm treading cautiously, but very interested to see. And just wanted to ask Paige as well about Jeremy Howe. I wonder whether we maybe missed a bit of a trick with not highlighting him as more of a pre-season option as well. So just going back through some of his numbers from late last year, and I know I like Nick Haynes for this exact reason as well, but from round 19 onwards, Jeremy Howe went 184, 106, 115, had a down week in round 23 with 58, and then in Collingwood's 2 finals last year, 116 ranking points and 130 as well. Mm-hmm. So generally a big finish to the past season is a pretty good indicator that a player is going to come back strongly, and certainly his role, is suiting as well, as we've touched on. So, maybe we missed one there, Paige. I'm sure you probably watched him pretty closely late last year and would have seen him be one of Collingwood's most important players in the run to the preliminary final.
Yeah, look, he's certainly, the thing about Jeremy Howe, not only is he really blessed aerially, but, when he's looked to as that player to rebound from the back half, he really gets involved in a lot of chain links getting through the middle of the ground. And the players actually look to him when he's around sort of 50, 60 metres out because he's got such a long-ranging kick. We saw at Melbourne when he was there just how good he was as a forward. So he knows where the goals are too, so he can really sort of impact at both ends of the ground. But, as I sort of touched on before, the big thing sort of for me coming into this year was having a look at the games where Jeremy Howe played, but also so did Jack Madgen. And Madgen's been an emerging one. He's a cross-code rookie. He was a basketballer. He's got his opportunity now playing a key post in the back half, but that has really now freed up Howe to be that, he's almost playing that, what Collingwood supporters would call the old Nick Maxwell role. That is running around without an opponent, doing as he pleases, and that just then is going to force an opposition player as a forward to be more of a defensive forward to play on him. So I think that poses as a real threat, but certainly from a SuperCoach point of view, we know he's efficient. We know he's got great hands in the air. We know he likes to run and carry the footy. He just makes sense as the ultimate sort of, defensive SuperCoach player that we want because, he makes use of the footy. But his pre-season form was quite interesting, but, he's probably overshadowed a little bit by what Jack Crisp did. And I think everyone sort of jumped onto the Jack Crisp bandwagon after a couple of really good scores. Howe sort of didn't play all the minutes, and that probably turned people's attention off him a touch. But look, it came as no surprise to see what he did in round one, and you'd expect more of the same tonight. And but as you said as well, Nick Haynes, he's been a player that's on my radar, and I've traded him today. He and Howe have come into my side, so good players who mark the footy, can rebound well, and like to get up the ground. That's SuperCoach gold.
Yeah, definitely. So, Al, just before we get your thoughts on Trent Rivers, who we mentioned already, debuting for Melbourne this weekend, there's another debut that's just been confirmed on Melbourne radio in the last 10 minutes or so, and that's that Thomas Berry, the brother of Jared, will debut for Brisbane on Saturday. So, as if we needed more forward rookies to choose from, Thomas Berry has been named to debut. He's 123,900 forward, going to play his first AFL game against Fremantle. So, be interested to see how he goes too, albeit we don't really need any more forwards, as I've found trying to fit Brett Bewley and Ben Long and Connor Rozee and Devon Smith and about 30 other mid-price players into 6 positions up forward. So that's another one to watch for. But yeah, I know you've been doing your homework on Trent Rivers, Al, in the last 24 hours or so. And the best thing for SuperCoaches is the fact that he's a deaf mid, which really opens up the trade options, as Dan touched on before with the bloke from West Coast, his name escapes me at the moment. Yeah, Jared Brander from West Coast, who is another integral trade piece. Having those players that can give you that extra bit of flexibility, really important, especially when we've got so many trades to play with.
Yeah, I don't know if it counts as homework. I was just looking at some trades that I'd made this morning and realised that it had deaf mid next to his name. So that was a nice little surprise. And to be honest, don't know a whole lot. Take the credit, Al.
Take the credit. No one knows that.
I don't know a whole lot about him, except that I put him in my team for some reason in about December when SuperCoach first opened. And we published that on the website. And there's a well-known Melbourne supporter on the production crew at the Herald Sun who just gave me an absolute bailed me up about that and said this was the worst thing that had ever gone in the paper. We needed to publish a retraction because, he's never going to play. He was only and this guy goes and watches the D's train, so he's all over it. But he said he's just so skinny, and we won't see him for ages. So I haven't heard his response since Melbourne came out with it yesterday that he's actually going to play. So I don't know a lot about him. I don't know if he can score many points. We've talked about some of the other rookies who might debut this week, and as much if anyone listened to our podcast, I said I wouldn't pick Harley Bennell, but I've changed my tune pretty substantially on that. Just looking at some of the numbers, and
I don't know why, but I have to.
If I sort of feel like if you're going to take a punt on someone, like why not take a punt on him? Like he's clearly got the highest ceiling of all of them, and you could potentially maybe emergency loophole him and just see how he goes. Don't want to have a crack at your boys, Dan and Tim, but coming up against Carlton this week, maybe it's an opportunity for him to show his stuff. But the problem is he's in the midfield, and I don't know if I need a midfield rookie. Maybe see if Tom Green gets dropped, but I've got Tyler Brown on the bench, which is handy. We know he's playing. Yep. McInerney as well, we think he's going to play. So,
Buderick.
Wait and see on him. But the defence bench is a whole another story. So the possibility of having a playing rookie back there is an absolute godsend. So I think he might be the one that I have to go early on and just hope that he keeps his spot. I mean, it's a bit of a roll of the dice, but it would probably mean maybe, if I trade Zirk Thatcher down to him, I might have to put Brander onto the field as my D6, but that he wasn't terrible last time. I can afford to have one rookie on the field, and that's just will give me some money to maybe Turner coming into Howe or something like that. So I think Rivers is probably going to come into my team tonight, but, as we've said plenty of times, it will come down to selections. A name that got thrown up, I wanted to throw it back at Dan. We've had a question actually come in. You talked about Howe and rating him versus some of the top defensive options, who's likely to be those sort of top 6 defenders. And an old favourite of yours is Jake Lloyd, who is clearly the most expensive defender. It was a bit underwhelming in round 1. And Ronald Spencer's saying he's going to trade Lloyd down to Howe to free up, that frees up 150K or so.
Yep.
So what's your thoughts on that kind of move?
Look, I don't mind it. I know that Lloyd will finish amidst the top 6. That's almost a lay down misère. He had a bit of an off start in round 1, didn't get it as quickly as he would have liked in the first quarter. But also, the game is not built for Jake Lloyd at the moment. He's actually the 15th best player in the comp in junk time. So he runs harder than anyone else. He's fitter than anyone else. And a lot of his possessions were earned when people were fatigued, exhausted, and he just aerobically run over the top of them. With games being pinched down to look 16-minute quarters, I don't think it's even favourable to Lloyd at this stage. And we know that Jordan Dawson took a lot of those kick-ins at full back, so that's restricting a lot of his output. To me, my article this week was all about shorting those players that you've paid too much for, you've overcapitalised. You can probably get them back in 3 to 4, 5 weeks' time if warranted. But that money to Howe, I think it's a lay down misère again. Like you pick up a bloke that's at $430,000, take 150K immediately, and then you probably get price appreciation of $150,000 over the next 2 to 3 weeks anyway, 50, 40, and then another 30 on top of that. So for me, I would do it, but I've just identified the 2 highest BEs in my side, and that's break evens. That's Max Gawn and Bontempelli. And right now they're sitting there because their value is probably better out of my side potentially because it gives me so much more reinforcement in other lines. And Gawn is that pivot right now. And it's literally coming down to the last 3 to 4 hours before teams get dropped. And I'm trying to consume as much information as I can about teams. And BZT was the first domino. If any more of these young rookies get dropped, my strategy may have to change. And it might be just a simple Bont to Viney, turn coming into Howe, and then just reconstruct all of the rookies around that. Because as we've seen, there could be 6 to 7 rookies you need to pick up over this next 2 weeks. And the only way you're going to get them is using 3 trades this week and then saving 2 next week for Bernal and Isaac Rankin potentially in round 4. So there's lots of things to consider. And I think, in essence, everyone's thinking that you've got to pivot away from this tried and tested solution of rookies and premiums. But if you miss these rookies like Bernal, or you miss a Cameron next week because you've got no trades to do so, what if it's a Dane Zorko 2012 who goes to $450,000 and you've missed that? So there's sorts of things like that really we're in the dark. We've been in the dark since the 5 trades were revealed, but it's once the teams finally drop, probably 5 o'clock tomorrow, really, once the Sunday teams are confirmed, that we can actually make some informative decisions. Because right now we're throwing darts at a board, and that's all we can really do for now.
I know last year Tim can share some pain with what's his name? The mature ager for Melbourne down in defence.
Marty Hall. Yeah.
No, I did the same with Sydney Stack. He was sitting there, and I decided to not use a trade that week to pick him up, and that can make or break your whole season. Just a decision to actually pass on someone. Yep. So, sometimes it's unavoidable.
Did he had a second wind as well?
Yeah, you turned up against the Dogs, and then he got about $200,000 out of that month of price movements.
Yeah, so you don't want to miss them, but you can't necessarily get everybody. There's only a limited number of trades. So those calls on who you take and who you pass on, and if you use this week to just do a few sideways moves, you want to get danger in, so you swap out another premium or something. Maybe where, like you say, Dan, the smarter move is to. I think in defence, I'm in a similar situation. I think a lot of people will be, where you might potentially even have a donut on the field with a BZT and Cummings and these guys, and Dylan Robin and people are keen to get rid of. So you might need to, downgrade somewhere to get some cash to fix that issue, and then use 2 or 3 of the trades just to make sure you don't miss any of these rookies.
Well, I think that everyone's jumping to conclusions that my team sucks, but a lot of us are still entrenched in the top 15, 20%. But I had a quick squiz at it, and I was like, I really want to get rid of Cumming. I don't trust Cumming. He's either going to get dropped or he's going to continue to spit out 65s. Then I looked at his BE, and it's like 23. So he's not an issue this week, and he's not going to be an issue next week either. So we've got to be a bit more pragmatic. If the BEs are achievable, just hold on to these players and just keep moving them along. But it's once their BEs become Bontempelli's 172 and Max Gawn 163. Max could do that. He's playing Pitnet on the weekend, so that's possible. But the Bont will most likely have De Boer in his back pocket for most of Saturday, and then Jack Steele this week, and then De Boer the following week, followed by George Hewitt. So Bont really gives me a bit of I'm very weary of him just because he's such a taggable player. They always go to him every time, and I think that for me is probably the move that's going to happen, and it will be Viney. And like Viney's the same as Howe. Even if I get a month, 6 weeks, whatever it is, some people don't like him, but I think he's a new man. He's a jaded man, a man that lost his job as captain, a man that's fitter than he's ever been. I think I'm tipping a career best season, and people might not agree, but I think he's a cross between Tom Mitchell and Dylan Shield. Like that's the sort of player I see. Left footer, speedy. That's what I think we're going to get, but probably not to the ilk of Tommy Mitchell at 130 in that 110 bracket.
I reckon you could write a thesis on the importance of captaincy versus non-captaincy.
Yeah.
And it is your favourite stat. Incredible.
Well, I've got to make the selected midfield basically everyone that wears an armband: Canelio, Rory Sloane, Patrick Cripps, Marcus Bontempelli. He just picked them based on the captaincy armband. So there's a lot of method to that. It's not madness. There's a lot of method.
Now, Paige, what do you think about Jack Viney? Because along with Jeremy Howe, he's the most popular player going into this round. The number one player of round one, pumped out 186 points against the Eagles, 34 disposals, 20 odd of those contested. Do we think he can maintain that? And even if he's not going to, is he still worth trading in based on the fact that he might be 550, 560,000 in 2 or 3 weeks' time? And by that point, some of those 600k midfielders might be available for a similar price, and you can very quickly flip him into an absolute gun of the competition.
Look, my opinions when it comes to, I play it very, very, very safe when it comes to midfielders, and that's because one, I don't like to stuff around, and two, I don't like to burn trades through the midfield. So I'm probably of the opinion that I wouldn't be touching Viney with a 10-foot pole. And that is purely on the basis that, yeah, you might hold him for 3 weeks while his price goes up, but you're going to burn another trade anyway to turn him into somebody else. And for me, that just is a waste of a trade to me personally. I prefer to sort of work on the other ends of the ground, being defence and the forward line, where things can be a little bit more topsy-turvy. Your midfielders you tend to get, solid consistency out of. Viney, yeah, I mean, look, I agree with you, Dan. He had a great game. He does look like a changed man, but unless if he was to do that again this week, then I would then believe. But I'm not going to bring him in this week based off what he did in round one, because he could, just like Melbourne, they can have a brilliant week one week and then completely stink it up the next. And to me, that's just sort of a bit fraught with danger for mine. So I'm not going anywhere near Viney, even though he would give me great cash flow. And yes, super low break even, which means, dollars on the other side of that. But no, I'm not doing it. It'll be Bontempelli and Dunkley out for me.
He did have two monster Marsh series games, so he's 3 on the Jonathan Trott now. So he's going very well. But whether he can do it again, like they got thumped in round one. Like the score was probably inflatorary in their favour, but I think they got thumped, and he just kept going and tackling and crashing and kicked a goal. So
I'd need to see him for one more week. One more week is what I will give him, and then I will, decide whether or not he's the real deal. And you know what, he very well could be. But my concern is that right now I look at it as, what is the point of bringing in a player like, say, Viney, who you're only going to upgrade into an ultra premium in 3, 4, 5 weeks, and that's another trade down.
Yeah, I'm very scared about trading the Bont. He's still on the trade block at the moment, but I could see him coming out and scoring 160 against St Kilda. So, and one that has actually been brought up by one of our viewers, Chris Sherry, says that he heard that Jack Steele might actually not be playing this week. And just quickly googling, he get some wrist surgery in late May, so not that long ago. So potentially watch the teams tonight, because if he's not playing, that might be really good news for Marcus Bontempelli, and enough you need just to hold him for a bit longer. But I think the biggest thing this year, Dan, and you're our expert in this field, is the sort of longing and shorting players, which you can explain to those who don't know what we're talking about. And players with high break-evens that are going to lose 50 grand over the next couple of weeks, you don't have the time that we've had in previous seasons to recoup that cash. So you've got to be getting on players just as they're about to spike in price, and you've got to be getting off players when you're going to lose value, because it doesn't matter if you're picking up Sam Sturt and he makes 150,000 over the next 4 weeks. If you hold on to Marcus Bontempelli and he loses 150,000 over the next 4 weeks, because there's your team value burned. So it's going to be pretty important, isn't it, to time those trades perfectly. And I think that's why a lot of people are willing to jump off Josh Dunkley and Marcus Bontempelli in particular this week, because of their high BEs.
Well, there is a good chance all those things will bite us in the backside, and you've got to be happy to accept that if it does occur. Like Bont could come out and prove us all wrong and reach his break even. But I just think with the generosity of trades, we get 30 trades. We've got 16 weeks remaining, of which we'll have 15 after this with 25 to come. Even if you exhausted every trade like Dwayne the Rock Del Domenico said, like you'll still get home and you can still win Supercoach. He's done it before. He ran out of trades in round 15 or something last year, and he still held on and won the $50,000. So for me, I think that the cash is so imperative this time around. I don't know whether these rookies have the propensity to get to 300-400 grand as quickly as he'd probably like, although they are doing price movements after 2 weeks, which is fantastic. But the idea is, with the Bont, I cash him out before I even realised that loss. So I've traded him out at his top dollar. I'm picking up a bloke that I know that's going up, and the jaws of that are just like shrinking, and it's just closing that gap. And team value is imperative because the more your team's worth, the closer you are to a fully premium side. So for me, like I'm only willing to really risk trading those players before they've experienced any sort of capital depreciation. So Bont hasn't lost any price, so I'll move him on now. But again, it's like it makes the next 2 to 3 weeks very nerve-wracking. If I do end up shifting Gawn, I'm going to have sleepless nights for 4 weeks because I'm going to be so nervous.
Don't trade Gawn.
I know. He's got the mohawk, like he's a Viking, and he looks fit as a fiddle. So that is the one that's sort of concerning me. But to add guys like Isaac Heaney, Naismith, who in round one absolutely smoked Rob. Like I watched that game pretty closely as a pundit that overlooked Naismith, and he reminded me of that Gawn that came on late in his 20s. Didn't look as fit as the other blokes, but just absolutely rucked over the top of them with a 208 centimetre height. So for mine, that looks like the trade I'll go with. It is nerve-wracking, but this is one of those years where I think that, unfortunately, you've got to have to think outside the square. Like it's not going to be as straightforward as we've seen. We've got blocks of 5 games. We don't know what the next 5 even look like. So matchups you can't even really consider beyond these first 5. So it's going to be really tough. And I think that people need to be confident with the trades that we've got. If we had 22 trades to start, yeah, I'd probably be not using these sort of bespoke sideways moves. But in the circumstance we're under with 25 trades after this week, I think that's more than enough to get through the season, considering we've probably added with those trades 2 or 3 additional premiums at the expense of 1 premium and 2 mid prices that we don't really think are going to come off, like Andrew Bayshaw.
Yeah. Al, I was going to say Sam Naismith's been the other big talking point, hasn't he? And we just had a question from Nathan Salmon asking if Sam Naismith is okay. And the news was a couple of days ago at training that John Longmire said that a little bit of a hamstring issue for Sam Naismith. So we've been waiting to see if he gets through training today. Then if he'll be named, scored 121 in round 1. So he's projected to go up about 50 or 60,000 if he can score triple figures again, which I think there's a chance that he'll be rucking one out for Sydney potentially. Although Cal Sinclair might play forward because they don't really have any tall timber left. But what's your opinion on Sam Naismith, Al? Because right now, my trades more or less rest on him, which it seems bizarre because he's never averaged more than 70 in his career. But I'm sitting here right now praying that he plays because then everything else just falls into place. And if he doesn't, I'm just going to have to throw a lot of balls in the air and hope they land in the right trade position.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the permutations that I have had going with my team over the past few weeks. There's been plenty, and one of them was to trade Gawn down to Naismith, and the possibilities just open up when that happens. Obviously, you've got about 450,000 to spend, but I just sort of couldn't go through with it. Like the hamstring news this week probably just made me feel a little bit better about deciding to stick with Gawn, but it was really more not so much about Naismith, although, as you say, I think he'd only ever scored over 100 once before in his career. So I don't know how reliable that is, but the rucks seem to be scoring really well this year. He's 1 out. He might be able to keep that up, or at least sort of around a 90-100 sort of average. But I just don't want to miss out on Gawn. And with the draw that he's got coming up, he actually, he wasn't as good as we would have liked him round 1, but he wasn't atrocious. He still scored in the 90s, even though he was probably beaten on the day, and he came in with a bit of an injury niggle. So he should be well and truly over that. We know his fixture looks fantastic coming up against the likes of a Pitney and Darcy Fort and these sort of ruckmen.
Chambers.
Yeah, so
he had a pretty ordinary round 1 game last year too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so maybe just
so did Grundy. Yeah, so did Grundy.
And so anyone who traded them out after round 1 last year would know that that was not the way to do it. And just the other thing with Gawn is that, like, I know we talk about break-evens and watching prices go up and down, and, Gawn has a very high break-even. But if you went down to Naismith now, you're going to have to wait at least a month minimum for him to make enough money to be able to make a good trade. And then where do you think Max Gawn is going to be priced then? He's not going to drop under 600K or something. he'll be pretty much back to where he is now, I would imagine, or pretty close to it. So it's still going to be a massive gap. You might have to find 200 grand or something somewhere to if you want to try and get Gawn back. So I guess
he's that two-trade player, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's a two-trade player.
It's just, I suppose, whether if you think, if you've got enough other holes in your team and, if your defence is just looking absolutely horrible and you need to spend a lot of money there to fix it up, and maybe you think, well, I'm just going to have to cop getting less points in the ruck, but, if I'm getting Howe and Duday in defence instead of two guys who are not even playing, well, that's probably worth it. But so long as you've got cover, I think I'd be trying to find money elsewhere. And the Bond's the one I'm looking at, similar to Dan. There was someone left a comment earlier about trading Josh Dunkley down to Viney, and I wouldn't be so keen on that. I've got Bont and Dunkley. Obviously, all the Bulldogs midfield just scored really poorly in round one. They were just completely annihilated by Grundy and the Magpies. You wouldn't think that's going to happen every week. So they all had sort of depressed scores, and we know how high Dunkley can go. And Bond's similar, obviously. I mean, he could probably go on and win the Brownlow this year, but the one big difference is the taggers that we know they go to him, and especially De Boer looming in a couple of weeks. If Jack Steele doesn't play this week, that might help him. But I don't expect Bond to average 80 for the year. He's probably still going to average 110. But if you've sort of got to find money somewhere to cover some other holes, I think he's probably the one I can afford to let go.
Do because I've been tossing up our list this as well. Like, who do I cash in to get enough cash to get Howe and to get these other guys into my team? Obviously, Brett Bewley being the number one target of the week. And the way that I'm going to get there, I think, is by downgrading Bontempelli as well. But I've based that purely, not just on the taggers, but if you look at Josh Dunkley played as a forward really until round 6, round 7 last year, and he still averaged 2 points more than the Bond. And everyone's talking about Marcus Bontempelli and saying the risk in trading him is that he's got a huge ceiling, which is true, but Josh Dunkley actually has probably a bigger ceiling than the Bond, I think, because he had a couple of monster games last year. Like one he scored 200, I think, like a couple of 180.
Like 6 or 7 weeks of 130 plus.
Yeah, a couple of 180s as well, and did it pretty quickly too. Like he was ordinary, like all of the Bulldogs in round one, but he still had 19 disposals too. So
plenty of centre bounces.
Racks up the footy pretty quickly, contested footy, which seemed like that was why Jack Viney scored a lot of his points, because so many of disposals were contested in round one as well. So I'm very loath to trade Josh Dunkley, and I think most people are probably in that boat too, based on what he did last year, when a lot of people traded him out and then he became the number one forward of the year. So, the Bont will probably be the one to go for me, but who knows? Like there's appeal as well, I think, in maybe downgrading BZT to Trent Rivers, and then using that cash to turn the Bont into Lockie Neal or Patrick Dangerfield as well. So, because we think those two are probably going to dominate over the next month. So, those primo midfielders are going to be a real testing point for a lot of traders. And Paige, I just want to throw it over to you because Harry Terry said, and I think one of the reasons that we get on is because we're both very lateral thinkers, is how I'll describe it. And he asked about going Andrew Brayshaw down to Ben Long, who we've spent far too long talking about in the last couple of weeks, and sort of Long and Bewley and those guys are all in that 300 to 250k bracket. You think Ben Long, based on one game, is that enough evidence to jump on because he's going to shoot up in price?
He's a gun. He has been from the get-go this year. When I saw his form in an intra-club for St Kilda, followed on to the fantastic form he had during the pre-season in that really defined role of half-back, I actually was too scared to roll with him in round one. I actually spooked myself out of it, and I was absolutely kicking myself when I chose Darcy McPherson over him. So I've corrected that trade. I've gone D-Mac down to Ben Long. And if you are thinking about Ben Long in your SuperCoach team, I just think, you talk about, backing yourself and taking a few risks and trusting your gut. Ben Long, for mine, apart from Jeremy Howe, has been a lock. Again, you're looking at a type that is just being told to run around, get the footy, elite user, has speed. We know St Kilda want to exploit that, and that's sort of their new look game plan, is to just sort of, run and gun the footy. They've got plenty of games at Marvel Stadium where he is just going to enjoy that deck. And he's their get-out player. He's their get-out player behind the footy. So, very efficient with the ball, and he kicks it. He kicks it and he kicks it to advantage. So, huge efficiency there. I think he's going to be very similar to Howe in the sense where he's just going to be taking a lot of intercept possessions, but also he's going to be fed quite a lot. And at that price, I think he's at about 270, 280. Although it's awkward, it's no less awkward than anybody jumping on, say, someone like John Noble, round one, down back. So up forward, there seems to be a lot of depth floating around. I went pretty deep in the forwards because there was a lot of conjecture over those mid-priced forwards. So I included a fourth in Darcy McPherson. Now I've downgraded him to Ben Long, and that's allowing me to put more dollars behind the footy, to have guys like Howe come in for Robinson. So
I love it.
Season
of the stepping stone, I'm calling it. So if you can get a couple of guys in that are going to get to 350, 400,000, downgrade one, upgrade the other, pretty easy way to get a premium into your side. We've only got, 6 hours or so to go to make up our minds on what we're going to do with our trades. So we better not drag this out too much longer. But Al, where are you at the moment with your 5 trades? They're up on the Herald Sun website. How, if we put a percentage on it, how close are you to feeling confident with what way you're going to go?
I have to call out the article to see what the actual latest version is, but I think it's pretty well just about locked in that I will go Bont down to Viney, and that'll free up a bit of cash to improve the backline. Go up to, like a Cumming or BZT type, hopefully up to Jeremy House. Sorry, my dog's barking in the background.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think
someone else wants to take over for a minute.
Your dog's saying don't like those trades.
It's got to be a sign.
He's going, don't trade Bont. And just continue on, Al. It's all right. Oh, I think Al's muted himself, so we'll let him be. Dan Begala, what about you? I know there's still a few balls up in the air for us all, but how many of your trades are you confident with?
Well, I'm going to bring Sturt in. That's a no-brainer. I really want Heaney, and I really want Viney, and I really want Howe. So to make that happen, I have to trade something. I've got to give something up. That's still there's still a few balls in the end. Today I had an epiphany. I walked through the park on a Zoom, and I saw Matthew Boyd walking his dog, and I thought, that's an omen. Maybe I've got to keep the Bont. The Premiership dog was in the park walking his dog.
He's a Collingwood assistant coach, Dan.
I'll always remember him as a halfback flank, all-Australian, fantastic SuperCoach player back in 2016. But I'm still I'm even having thoughts as we hear. I'm thinking, do I move McCluggage at M5 to Viney? And I'm thinking of other iterations. I really want to move Brayshaw on because, as we've said earlier in the week, he was fifth wheel in that midfield and nowhere near getting a hold of it. And Freako wrote a really good article on that. So for me, it's going to come down to how these first 5 or 6 games up to Saturday night lay out tonight. There'll be some extended benches on Sunday that I'm going to have to do some deep analysis on. But as of 5 o'clock tomorrow, I think I should be ready to go. But tonight, Howe must come in. He's a no-brainer. I'll work heaven and earth to get him in tonight. And then that might mean having to discard a Bont or a Gawn. And I'm just have to make a tough decision and back myself to get them back if I need them. And I think that Gawn will be the one that retains his value just because he's a Goliath of the game, absolute star. And he's now had 12 weeks to get himself fitter. He's been on Strava. I've seen him clocking up laps down somewhere near Blair Gowrie. So I think he's ready to go. But Bont, I'm still weary of. I think he's taggable. And as you've said earlier, Tim, you've had some good analysis there. You obviously know that Dunk sort of seems to navigate that tagging arrangement and seems to thrive on the back of that. So I still think Bont is pretty much gone for me tonight. And it's going to be with a heavy heart, but sometimes you've got to make these clinical decisions to move forward.
Yep. And Paige, we appreciate you giving up your time. Looks like you're on the Gold Coast hub at the moment. So thanks for
Royal
checking
Pines.
in with us, Royal Pines Resort.
That's for sure.
How confident are you of what way you're going to go with your trades in not just tonight because the rolling lockout where you can make a few decisions over the next few days?
Yeah, look, it's the one that's probably throwing me up a little bit has actually been, it's probably what I'd probably call a bit of a luxury trade. I'm going potentially looking at moving on Jack Crisp to over to Nick Haynes. And I suppose Haynes, he's only got about 2% ownership. I like that. And I really like what I saw of him in round one. And, the Giants are just a classy outfit. So Haynes is someone I'm looking at including out of just want, not necessity. I'm pretty happy with my team otherwise. I will be moving on Bont tonight, but I'm moving him up to Neil. So I'm not actually using him for generation. I'm actually moving him up to Neil purely because I love that idea of him playing in Queensland for the next, 4 to 5 games.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be really important, and that big 157-point score in the first week was quite telling. So Bont up to Neil. For mine, it'll be McPherson down to Long to free up some cash to go Robertson to Howe. I've got a little bit of cash left over, and that's probably where I'm considering either going over to Nick Haynes from Jack Crisp or moving Tom Green, who I'm expecting to be omitted, down to Harley Bennell. So it's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, and plenty to play at. Al, I think we've got you back. You ran us through your first couple of trades, but what else are you buying?
That's about it that I know of for now. A lot of it's going to come down to rookies. Probably at Rivers. I think BCT to Rivers is probably pretty likely. I'm not sure about Green. Yeah, but I am tempted by Bennell if there's a fifth trade there that I don't desperately need somewhere else. Might come, Sturt, I think, is a must-have if he is named. We know he's had a bit of a back issue, but hopefully he gets up. That'll probably be a Kavara type, or I've got Toby Bedford down there. I can't see him holding his spot at Melbourne, given we've got all these inclusions coming in. So that won't be an issue. And I might have to look at whether I can, weave a bit of DPP and maybe, I could swap him for a Bennell or something. If I could move someone, Butterick to the forward line or something like that. So that's a possibility as well. But I think the main moves is, Bont's going to be the main sacrifice, I think. So we just quickly look at some of the questions that have come in. I think
let's do that.
Paige, you really sort of addressed one just a second ago. Larry Sullivan said Crisp to Howe. So it sounds like you're open to the possibility of trading out Crisp and you like Howe. So
yeah, definitely. I also think Howe might be a cheeky chance to probably play a bit more of a tagging role again this year. So we might see him spend a few more minutes into the middle, and that's purely off the back of sort of Greenwood obviously being out for the rest of the year with an ACL. So if anyone's going to play a run with role, it's Crisp. I just think that, Howe's just too much of a weapon down back, and we'll take that role that Crisp played last year.
Zerk Thatcher replacement, Tim Gavin Hayhow asking, who to get for Zerk Thatcher. So we've mentioned a couple of, if you can go down to Trent Rivers and make a sort of 60 grand. Stephen Hill would be a good one if he's named basically the same price, or maybe Tom Duday's the other one who's around that mark, but you'd have to find another 80K or so.
Yeah, so Duday's the one, 273K. We expect he'll be named by Adelaide tonight. I don't hate the idea of getting Dylan Robertson either. I know he had a stinker in round one, but it was his first game back for a long time. Obviously had his well-documented medical issues, so it was great to see him back out there. But his price is actually going to change this week, so he doesn't have a great break even. It's about 73, I think. But if he was to get 80, he goes up a little bit. His break even will probably be a little bit higher again in round 3, but I wouldn't stress too much about that. If 10 or 15 grand is the difference between being able to pull off the rest of your trades and you're tossing up between Tom Duday and Dylan Robertson. But I think the ideal situation, and Dan said it already, is get enough cash to go BZT to Jeremy Howe and don't look back, because Howe's probably going to sit in your defence for the rest of the year.
Agree with that. There was a question too about Naismith, Dan, but potentially getting him at R3. Richard Hannaby, is that an option?
Richard? Bit greedy, mate.
I don't mind the option if you've got if you don't have any other spot fires to put out, because he's going to appreciate handsomely. We know he's going up 50, 60 grand this week, let alone that. But I just watched his game in round 1 against Adelaide at Adelaide Oval, 440. He just torched Rob, in my opinion. He looked like he had range over him. He had a lot of hit-outs to advantage to Luke Parker and those JPKs, and even Ollie Florin on the outside. And I just really liked his game, and I was really happy for a guy that had quite an extensive period on the sidelines. I think he'd been out there for 2 years or so. But then I had an epiphany this morning reading more about him, the hamstring tightness, the issues that are arising. I remember I picked Jagabomb 1 year after he'd had a 2-year layoff, and I picked David Swallow 1 year after he had a pretty long layoff, and both of them blew up in my face. So it does make me weary. A ruckman who has to cover quite a lot of kilometres. He's got to do a lot of collision sort of stuff. It gives me the irks thinking that I'm going to put a lot of faith into a bloke that doesn't have many runs on the odometer. So that is another concern we've got to worry about. It probably is better to have him at R3 if you can wrangle that, but your team must be almost perfect if you need him at R3, because I just can't see that being appropriate with the lack of liquidity elsewhere.
Can you imagine, Dan, as well, having him at R3, and in the second game of the round he scores 130,
and Gorn gets 90,
and Nick Nui, your second ruckman, scores 60, and you've burned 70 points? Like, I just could not think of anything more frustrating. So I wouldn't be doing it personally. I'd rather just use R3 for Matt Conroy and not stress too much about it.
Well, the way I look at it, go ahead, Al.
I was just going to say, if you've got that amount of money, spend it on points that you can get on the field would be my take. And you did raise the other good point about Naismith that if you're going to take that risk, you just have to be aware that, like, if it blows up, like, what's your exit strategy? Because, maybe it's Mark Pitney. There's really no one else cheap enough that you could, get out without using a bunch of trades.
Yeah, I think you're right. You've got to have a contingency if he does blow up, because you're going to have gone. If you're chasing rankings, you can't be in the top you can't be the top of the pile if you don't have gone. So, I'm still undecided as it stands right now. But I really like Paige's idea there, which she said, that little Lockie. So little Lockie Neal, he's playing up at the hub, loves the warm weather. But remember last year, that first 12 rounds, you couldn't get him. Once you missed him in round one, he became the most unobtainable. He was like a fugitive. You couldn't get near him. And then he started getting tagged after the buys. So who knows? Do coaches employ that tactic again on Lockie Neal? He's so damaging. He obviously, they let him go in round one and the Hawks still won by 30-odd points. So maybe he does run free and roam, and he's an explosive player that should benefit from an 18-minute or 16-minute quarter. So I really like that trade. But with Naismith, got to be wary. It's that risk it for the biscuit type analogy. You've got to really back him in here and hope if it does blow up that you've got some sort of strategy to cover him, because Gawn's going to be $650K when you want to get him, and he's not going to dip below that at all. So you've got to have some little strategies up your sleeve to make sure you can make that trade happen.
Yeah. Now I'm excited because I've just worked out I can put comments on the screen. Which is a great
this is why we're all.
This is the best one.
We're happy to start with a real SuperCoach orientated question here. And I've been thinking it all the whole stream as well. So I'm glad Geordie Pro's asked it.
Geordie's asked the question we've all been thinking.
Al, you look very intelligent, Al. Let's be honest. Not many books sitting behind you at the moment. Geordie wants to know what your favourite is from the bookcase.
It's too hard to nominate one. There's some plenty of good ones in there. I've just finished reading Peter Fitzsimmons' book on the Battle of Tobruk, which was I enjoyed that. So recommend his work.
There you go. All right, we'll bring up another couple of questions just while I'm having a bit of fun. Matthew Murphy wants to know about Justin McInerney, who has really been the forgotten rookie of SuperCoach. He scored pretty well in round one. He got 81 for Sydney, but we probably think he's fringe. I think he did enough in round one to keep his spot, but who knows, because it's been such a long time between footy. If you had the trades, would you be looking at him, guys? Or is Harley Bennell now we're throwing him into the mix, or even Trent Rivers with his DPP? I might throw this one to Paige. Are they types you'd look at more than McInerney, who's probably on the fringes for Sydney?
Oh, look, I think McInerney's probably floating under the radar for a lot of people. He's that 81 points he scored in round one was quite good. And he looked to have a pretty defined role as well. It didn't sort of look like a bit of a fluke. He was playing through the middle and on the wing and crept forward, and then had, a lot of time and moments around the footy. So I really don't mind him. Again, at least you've seen,
Oh,
right up.
That's
the golf course broke down.
Sorry, I'm back now. That's actually more than, what you saw Matt Rao play and, finish with. So, look, Harley Bennell is probably that one in a type of player where, his ceiling's monstrous. You'd probably be looking at him. But I really don't mind McInerney. I've got him. I had him on field in round one and was pretty happy with him. So nothing but positive vibes from me regarding him. But again, how much do we know at the moment? It's everything's going to be quite up in the air.
Yeah, obviously we wait for teams, Tim, but he's got to break even to minus 34, McInerney. So, I had him. He was on my bench in round one, but I'm happy with that. If I didn't have him, I think he probably would be someone you'd want to target if he gets named, obviously. Probably ahead of a Bennell, just because we know he's going to go up in price next week. So, whereas Bennell at least get one more week.
All right, we might make this the last one.
Who gets M8, you reckon? Is it going to be Tyler Brown or McInerney? Because I'm going to drop Green to the bench. He's not playing for me. So who will you play?
Urgency Tyler tonight?
I don't think I've got a loophole to get him on, so I'd have to take the risk on McInerney or Tyler.
Look, it's Tyler Brown season, guys. I've been pretty adamant about that on Twitter.
What about
Tyler
Bennell?
Brown season.
Who'd you field out of all those?
Well, I haven't seen Bennell for 2 years, so I'd probably think that Bennell would go 65 plus, I feel. But again, I haven't seen him for a long time. I haven't watched any of the match simulations. I saw on the news the other night the footage from Casey Fields and they had the drones filming, so I'd love to see some of that drone footage to see who really dominated those games. But geez, it's a tough. It's a sort of until the season unfolds, it's just got to flip a coin on those blokes, because you could go McInerney, he could score 26. You might go Tyler Brown, he might go 150. So We don't know. Like, you just got to be happy to accept that what comes, because we've got no idea what these boys are going to spit out.
I just feel like if you're going to get
Tim,
Tim, one last point. If you're going to get Benell, I reckon you put him on the field. Like, what's the point of getting him otherwise? You may as well just wait a week. He's just going to have him on the bench. So if you're going to roll the dice, then, go all in.
Yep.
Simmons was the last question. He said, "What's the deal with Tom Green? Will he have any impact now Callum Ward is back?" We probably think that, he was borderline selection. It was nice to see him in round one, but I'd probably be using his 166K to downgrade to a Benell type and then get the extra 40K. But I think I'm just about to run out of battery juice on the computer, guys, and it's been a funny hour, and we'd probably be here all afternoon if we could, talking SuperCoach. But we better wrap it up and let people get back to fixing their teams and working out exactly what they're going to do in round two. But thanks for giving up all your time this afternoon, and good luck to all the SuperCoaches out there working out exactly what you're going to do with your 5 trades.
Last point, Tim, before you sign off, don't forget, everybody, KFC obviously on board this year as a sponsor, and they're giving away vouchers to the top 11 ranked players every round. So that gives us something to aim for. And one thing that we've sort of really forgotten about, because we haven't done SuperCoach for a while, is captaincy selection. I think we were going to put the VC on Grundy. Is that how that works?
Grundy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, done.
Happy days. All right, thanks again for tuning in. Good luck with your 5 trades to Dan, Paige and Al. Thanks for jumping on as well. Enjoy the footy. We're back.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys. Bye.